We do all types of videos. For example, we found something that works really well is a UGC style, like an in-store haul type of video. So sometimes it's as simple as showing the product on the shelf. I think it works well because it gives the customer sort of a point of view and puts them in the store and it shares the store experience with them.
This is Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition, your go-to guide to solving your biggest retail social media marketing challenges authentically. I'm your host, Mike Allton, and each episode is an honest and frank look at what marketers go through, from awful algorithms to terrific trends and ideas that you can apply to your own business. And now, the rest of today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition, where we're digging into the challenges, successes, and stories of social media community professionals in the industry just like you. Subscribe to gain valuable insights that you'll be able to apply to your own work and social presence from each and every episode. For retail brands, it's not enough to post to social media once a week. In fact, that's such a ridiculous idea that you probably laughed a little to yourself when I suggested it. Or you may have cried a little too, because it's true. Retail brands have to be active and publishing regularly at a far higher rate than other industries. And it's not enough to just spam edited product images, is it? Audiences want to be educated and entertained, which means we have to create a lot of engaging content. How do we keep feeding the beast of social media while at the same time maintaining high levels of creativity and engagement? That's exactly what Julia Wolf is going to talk to us about. With 7 years of in-house and agency design and social media experience, she's worked to produce creative solutions for a variety of clients, ranging from small nonprofits to large Fortune 500 companies. Julia now serves as the social media content developer at Five Below. Since joining the company in July 2022, she's contributed to the brand's rapid social media growth, creating content for Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Hey, Julia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So glad you're here. Can't wait to dive into all these topics that we're going to be talking about: social media, content creation, this beast. But first, tell us about Five Below and the work you're doing today. I'm really curious. What does your day to day look like?
Sure. So Five Below is an American chain of specialty discount stores that our prices are mostly $5 or less. And we have a new section called Five Beyond where prices can go up to $25. Our motto is let go and have fun. We have about 1,500 stores. And within those stores, we have 10 worlds. So there's a bunch of different products. Some of our more popular worlds are party, style and beauty. We have room and tech. So there's lots of different products that we need to post on social media. Because of this, my day to day looks different every single day. And for example, I can give you an example of a recent day I had. So I started the day, let's say I was doing cowboy inspired fashion and the spring in store launch. So my day starts, I have to do my own hair and makeup and get camera ready. And then I go into the office, style my set, I set up the lighting, set up the camera, shoot for about an hour, hour and a half. Then I take lunch. And then I go downstairs. We're right above a Five Below store, and I'll shoot some in store content. I will go on my computer, find some stock music, and I'll spend the rest of the day editing the videos.
Well, now that sounds like a lot of fun. Very cool. We're definitely going to dig into that. I have a daughter who's 12. She loves Five Below. She loves going there for perfumes, which is great because she's not asking me to spend an outrageous amount of money on something that she's going to go through in a week. So I love that. But let's talk content, right? When you're creating content for social media, what does that typically look like to you? Coming from a B2B SaaS company like Agorapulse, more often than not, my posts are simple link shares with copy. I gather that's not what you're sharing.
Right. So creating content can look like a number of things for Five Below. We do all types of videos. For example, that we found something that works really well is a UGC style, like an in-store haul type of video. So sometimes it's as simple as showing the product on the shelf. I think it works well because it gives the customer sort of a point of view and puts them in the store and it shares the store experience with them. This works well for something like collectibles or plushies, but the style of content doesn't work well for things like makeup. So when you're showing makeup, you want to show people a swatch or you want to show how it lays on your face. And for that, you kind of need to be on camera. So we flip the switch and turn into beauty influencers. And every day can really be a new challenge.
Oh, that's fascinating. I was talking to one of TikTok's product managers last month for a retail summit that we did at Agorapulse, and she was covering a lot of these same points that you just made. That particularly on TikTok, that UGC looking content is outperforming everything else. And I say looking
Yeah,
because it's not necessarily actually user generated content. And if I heard you correctly, I think that's what you just said, right? Some of the
right.
content that you're creating is that style, but you're the one creating it, the brand. You're not necessarily using users.
Yes, that's correct.
Really interesting. Now, with over 1,500 locations, as you said, tons of products, that's a lot of potential content and posts to be made. What are some of the initial challenges you faced?
We face all sorts of types of challenges at Five Below. One example that we face is an annual challenge, and it's the summer content. So, when I first started at Five Below, we didn't have a dedicated social team or strategy. So, I would sort of piggyback off the seasonal campaign shoots. The summer shoots would typically take place in early March, and it's cold in Pennsylvania during that time. So, last year we did our social shoot in Palm Springs, California. We had 4 days to shoot content, and all of our products had to be FedEx out west. Between the three teams, we had to share everything. So we have the paid social, the organic social, and the still photography shoots. With the amount of posts that we had on the social media calendar, I was waking up at 5, 6 a.m., planning my shoot for the day. We would shoot all day, go back to the hotel, and plan for the next day. It was probably one of the most difficult and exhausting things I've ever had to do. And with all of that, I still didn't manage to get all of the content that I needed.
Wow. So, how are you overcoming that? Because that was just that one time. How are you catching up and creating even more content today? How are you solving for those kinds of challenges?
Sure. So we actually don't have social media shoots anymore. Now we have a social media manager, we have another content creator, and we work with an agency. So we have the capabilities to get content done on a more case by case basis. This has been working a lot better and has shown us better results. And it was kind of a no brainer because shoots are really expensive and we actually save a lot of money by doing this. It turns out that people weren't really responding as well to that photo shoot content. And I suspect it's because it didn't appear organic. Everything was staged, and so people didn't connect as much. They really like that organic style of content.
That makes a lot of sense. That reflects what the TikTok product manager told us. And even in our last episode, we were talking with JCPenney's social media manager, and she was saying a lot of the exact same things. We were comparing and contrasting the old JCPenney's catalogs that all had highly stylized photo shoots and really professional product photos to today. It's a lot of literal UGC content or off the cuff content. She'll walk into a store like you were talking about with Five Below and take a lot of imagery herself. So that really obviously seems to be the way that audiences are resonating with content today. And she actually gave a lot of props to Gen Z for kind of forcing this change in how brands perceive social media and trying to drive us as the brands to be more authentic and organic in how we're using this kind of medium. Folks, we're talking with Julie Wolf about trying not to be overwhelmed by the sheer amount of content that we need to create. And I want to share with you a quick story about how another retail brand, Fracture, is solving for social media.
Fracture is a company out of Gainesville, Florida, founded on the belief that the printed image has a lot of power. We wanted to make it as absolutely simple as possible for people to take photos, from being buried in their camera roll on their phones to being something they can celebrate on their walls. Originally, we essentially were doing a lot of manual social media management. And then as the company grew, we started to try different platforms for social media management and marketing. Most of the ones that we used, we were somewhat satisfied with, but never found something that really addressed everything that we needed. We use Agorapulse for our social media marketing. It's really fantastic because it allows us to connect the marketing side of what we do with our customer support. We now use Agorapulse to easily assign a support request as soon as it comes in. Agorapulse has really allowed our company to expand and upgrade our social media management abilities. I think that smart marketers nowadays are constantly on the lookout for new companies like Agorapulse who are able to deliver the same kind of results in a leaner way that ends up saving me money.
Julia, can you share with me some more examples of how you're creating content for social media, how it's being posted out, what's happening next? What are some examples of these tactics that you're using?
Sure. So now that we post on a more case by case basis, it allows us to shoot closer to the season that we're posting in. It also allows us to hop on those trends a little bit more timely. So summer's warm in PA, so we're able to go outside and shoot that picnic scenario that we may need to shoot. It also has been a huge weight off of my shoulders now that we have another content creator, Catalina Lubin, to help me. She not only can shoot some content alongside of me or by herself, but she offers a totally new perspective that I wouldn't have originally thought of. Additionally, we are now working with an agency who can facilitate some influencer content. So recently, we worked with Zachariah Porter and Bethany Frankel. Some of our content creators live near the ocean or they have a pool, and this is perfect for those things like pool inflatables that we can't necessarily shoot in Philadelphia. This is a perfect solution for summer products that we would struggle to make into a compelling piece of content.
Love it. So you've got internal strategies and help, which is really important. But I also love that you're working with specific influencers where you've identified that because of the nature of who they are, where they are, they're able to address a segment of the audience or a segment of your products or both a little bit differently than you are. And you've seen success with working with those influencers?
Yes, definitely. It is great working with influencers, and I'm sure our audience may get tired of seeing me on the camera all the time. So I love working with influencers and content creators, and I love seeing their content because you never know what it's going to be.
Well, you're great on camera, but I can also attest to that change of pace being necessary. I know as an event producer, it's important to have different voices so that people hear those different voices. And the same thing with your
Absolutely.
social media presence and your advertising. We want to see different people who could potentially relate to in different ways. But speaking about the success of social media, I'm really curious, how are you measuring now the success of your own social media activity? What does that look like for you and Five Below?
Right. So we now have a social media manager. Her name is Amanda Luvera, and she leads the charge in social media analytics in partnership with our agency. There are a few ways to measure impact, such as impressions and engagement rate. We typically shoot for a 1.5% engagement rate, and we exceed that often. For example, I just posted a strawberry obsession video, I think it was last week, and it has an 11.95 engagement rate on TikTok and a 10.21% on Instagram. One of the big statistics that we shared in a recent town hall is that we now have 3.3 billion views on hashtags Five Below and hashtag Five Below Finds.
Oh, that's really impressive. That's very cool. Have you found any way to actually connect when you're posting about particular products and any kind of impact on like sales of those products, or really just looking at, how many people are we reaching with this content and kind of hoping that it does have an impact on sales down the line?
Oh, that's a really good question. We aren't able to necessarily connect that to our social media, but it's kind of like if a product is trending, we post about it, and sometimes that product is sold out by the time the video even posts. So it can be really hard to connect that, but we just always strive for high engagement rate and just it's not necessarily for us about selling the product, but just being that recognizable brand voice. And we've been actually trying to do a lot of non-product related posting lately.
Love it. And that's really important to have that specific goal in mind. In this case, brand awareness and brand engagement, and knowing that that needs to be reflected in the content that you're putting out. Fantastic. What about tools? I'm always interested in the tools that the brands we're talking to are using. What's in your tech stack at Five Below?
Right. So I have a few different tools that I love to use. I actually edit all of my video on CapCut on my phone. So I'll take all of the video on my phone and edit it all on my phone, and then I'll airdrop it to my laptop. Two of the stock music accounts that we really like to use are Artlist and Envato Elements. I think they both offer different types of music, and I like using them both. And I think the most important and impactful tool that we use is Airtable. When I started working at Five Below, we had our social media calendar in an Excel doc, and the Excel doc was so big
Mhm.
that it would crash my computer. And it was combined with all of this other information. And I really give props to the girls that were managing it because that thing was a behemoth. But now we wanted to switch to something that was an actual calendar. So we use Airtable, and Airtable gives us the ability to tag each other, to leave comments, to change the status of our post. It really just gives us an all around good communication tool and it gives everything at a glance. So I love Airtable. Ever since that we've Ever since we've changed to Airtable, my life has just improved so much. I love Airtable.
That's a great shout out for Airtable. I know a lot of community managers that have used them. Yeah, right, Heart. And we use Asana here at Agorapulse for our projects. So we're not still using it for social media, but I do recognize the power of having that kind of collaborative tool where you can see posts, projects, tasks, whatever it is that you're working on together as a team and comment on them, easily change the status with the toggle and move them around different boards. Fantastic recommendation. Now, earlier you mentioned trends, and I know that's a really hot topic for social media managers, particularly in retail, because it's hard to keep up with not only changes to the platform, but what's trending, what's not, what are best practices today. And so, one of the last questions I have for you, and I always ask this, is what are you using or who are you following today to help you keep up with these kinds of things? And these could be blog posts, podcasts, newsletters, individuals, whatever's top of mind for you.
Yeah, so our agency actually has this trend spotting feature that they offer us. So they have our teams channel, they have a trend spotting teams channel, and they'll share what trends that they found that they think would be applicable to Five Below. So we'll look through these and be like, yes, this one, no, that one doesn't work. And we'll find our own way to create them. And then we also, amongst the social media team, have our own little trend spotting. So my For You page looks totally different than my coworkers' For You page. So I like to share what I see and they share what they see, and we all laugh about it. And then we see who's will make a good Five Below post. One content creator that I really like, his name is Brand Flakes, and he's actually a local Philadelphia content creator. He gives great tips on how to create social media content that's engaging. And most recently, he did a storytelling post where he taught how to tell a story on content and keep people engaged from start to finish. And this is really important when you're creating long form content. And last but not least, I'd say just following other brands. I really like to follow Scrub Daddy. I'm sure you're familiar with their content. Duolingo and Taco Bell. Five Below really likes that snarky brand voice, and we really love watching their content and taking inspiration from it.
Love it. I particularly love the shout out to the local creator. That's fantastic. We'll have Brand Flakes link and all those references in the show notes for everyone listening. So you can go and follow Brand Flakes and Duolingo and anybody else that you, for some reason, aren't yet following. Julia, this has been so much fun. Thank you for coming on. For those who want to learn more about you and follow you, where can they go to learn?
Well, you can follow me on LinkedIn. You can find me at Julia Wolf, or you can find me on my social media channels. My personal page is at No Rules Jules. I'm at No Rules Jules on TikTok and Instagram.
Love it. That's all we've got for today, folks. Be sure to follow us on Apple and leave us a review, the Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition. We'd love to know what you think. Until next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition, hosted by Mike Allton and powered by Agorapulse, the #1 rated social media management solution, which you can learn more about at agorapulse.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and be sure to leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.